Inkomplu bit-tieni parti tal-programm TVM fil-fatt miegħi issa għandi negozjant Ingliż li bħalissa jinsab Malta għal Business Forum tal-Commonwealth. Good morning, Jeremy Leach, CEO of Managing Partners Limited. It's not the first time that you're here in Malta, but you are keen on the Business Forum and you're going to talk to us about the opportunities that Malta has in this regard. But first of all, I would like to ask you, how do you perceive the Commonwealth?
Well, I perceive the Commonwealth as an incredibly important unification of 53 nations. They're 53 nations that are not bound by any legal structure. They're unified by cultural, language and history. And they're also unified by shared values for human rights, for legal systems and democracy.
What opportunities does attending, specifically in the Business Forum, provide for you as a delegate?
Well, the Business Forum is incredibly important because unlike the European Union, where each member state is in close proximity and it's very easy for corporates to travel to meet each other, the Commonwealth spans 6 different continents, and therefore to have business leaders together in one place so that they can meet and develop working relationships that assist, both countries is incredibly important.
Why do you think there was a record number of participants in the Business Forum here in Malta? 1,200, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I think every time the forum takes place, members of the Commonwealth see greater advantage in globalization, and the forum is a unique opportunity for that to take place.
What benefits do you think the forum provides generally for managers or head of organizations such as yourself?
Well, in addition to the structured presentations that are taking place at the forum, they've been very innovative because there's the opportunity to have one-to-one meetings with business leaders. So each delegate at the forum has the opportunity to identify countries or organisations that they specifically want to meet and discuss ways that they can improve trade between them. And having, when developing trade in a global basis, it's incredibly important to have trading partners located in different countries.
But within the Commonwealth, there are countries who are very rich and others who are very poor. How can you also try to build this bridge between both of them? How can you address the disparities that there is between the rich and the poor countries?
Well, you're right. I mean, one of the interesting facets of the Commonwealth is that, unlike the European Union, where there are a lot of similarities in the economy, the Commonwealth is much more diverse. It has some of the smallest countries in the world and some of the largest countries in the world, and the richest and the poorest. But if we look at the gross domestic product of those combined nations, it represents in excess of $10 trillion a year. And the anticipated growth of the combined Commonwealth is estimated to be 7% per annum over the next 5 years. And if we compare that to forecasts for Europe itself, it's much lower. So whilst there are smaller members of the Commonwealth, Malta being a prime example, their scope for growth is more significant than some of the more established countries. But of course they need probably some of the infrastructure that more established countries can offer developing countries as well.
But how can these meetings be more binding? For example, when you compare to Commonwealth with the EU, can there be more relevance nowadays to these discussions that you're holding, for example, during the Business Forum, and also make Commonwealth therefore more relevant to the current challenges?
I think what's very interesting about the Commonwealth is that, unlike the European Union, that members of the Commonwealth are not bound by a charter. It's basically a common eagerness to develop links and strengthen business relationships between members of the Commonwealth. Whereas the European Union, there's more of a structured requirement for members to cooperate with one another. But what's very interesting, I think unlike the European Union, there are much more cultural similarities between members of the Commonwealth. It was established nearly 50 years ago.
How?
And it remains unified because there's a common business language, which is English. There are very common legal structures in all of the Commonwealth countries.
What are these common factors?
Well, as I've said, we're unified by culture, by history, by a common business language. We represent the Commonwealth, a group of 2.3 trillion people, which is a third of the world's population. So unlike the European Union, which is obviously a very important union and very important to Malta, the interesting facet of the Commonwealth is that even if we look at the economic crisis that, let's be honest, was created by the West and in the main is contained in the West, the Commonwealth spans well beyond that economic crisis, and there are benefits in doing trade globally.
What meetings have you had with other delegates during the business forum? What came out of them?
Well, they've been very good. Some of the meetings I saw no potential value when I was invited, because I come from a background of financial services, and I was contacted by one company that run a fertility clinic in Lagos, and I couldn't immediately see any synergy that we may have. But what was very interesting is that they're looking at evolving different types of healthcare services. We have links with healthcare in different parts of the world where we're doing business. And although there may not be any direct benefit, then we certainly have the ability to cooperate with each other and introduce our businesses to people that will help.
Last question. What potential do you see in Malta for business opportunities, I mean?
I think Malta is very well positioned, firstly because it's a very important member of the European Union. Strategically, it's always been a very important trading point between Europe and Africa. But as well as the European Union, which represents 500 million people, it's a member of the Commonwealth. And if we take the combined value of the Commonwealth and the European Union, Malta has the ability to be trading and cooperating with 80 different nations around the world. And the combined populations of the Commonwealth and the European Union is 2.7 billion people, which is nearly half the global population, and a GDP of $27 trillion a year, which is nearly a third of the global GDP.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. Jeremy Leach huwa kap eżekuttiv tal-Managing Partners Limited, huwa wieħed mid-delegati qed jieħu sem fil-Business Forum. I hope this won't be the last time that we're going to discuss this topic. Mana issa anka ingħaqad magħna iċ-Chairman tal-Business Forum, Adrian Hillman, lodwa tajba lilek, ħafna xogħol milli nista' nara.
Ħafna ġiri ġen bħal dalodu. Tinqabad ftit fit-traffiku, ma wasalna wkoll.
Tajjeb. Mela, sissa l-ewwel reazzjoni tiegħek għall-ewwel ġurnata tal-Business Forum x'inhija?
Il-bieraħ l-event bdiet mod sublimi. Introduċa il-Business Forum Lord Marland ta' introduzzjoni. Il-raġel huwa uniku, għandu sense of humor Ingliża tipika.
Ġieli kien magħna hawnhekk fl-istudju wkoll.
Tkellim li jien ftit, u mbagħad tkellem l-essenza tiegħu il-General Secretary tal-Commonwealth, Sharma, u il-Prim Ministru. U Prim Ministru ta' spjegazzjoni għalfejn il-Business Forum huwa importanti għall-pajjiż, speċjalment sa' żminijiet fejn il-pajjiż huwa qed jipperformja ħafna above in-norma tal-Eurozone speċjalment. Kienet interessanti li tara il-reazzjoni tad-delegati, il-level ta' organizzazzjoni, bil-forsi kolli ngħidlek presti nieħu sem f'organizzazzjoni, imma il-level
mara kemm ilkom taħdmu wkoll. Apparti minn hekk kien naħseb rekord ta' delegati li qed jattendu wkoll f'dan il-forum.
Rekord ta' delegati minn ħafna pajjiżi, iktar minn 70 pajjiż. Hemm xi 4 Prim Ministri li kienu ġew il-bieraħ huwa jiżdiedu illum. U iktar interessanti huwa l-kontenut, hemm livell ta' kontenut għoli. Il-bira kont qed nisma' il-nies bħal Josa Mittabona, Louis Farrugia, kemm Joe Bannister, Mario Vella jitkellmu fuq għalfejn Malta huwa pajjiż importanti għall-investiment u l-potenzjal.
Infatti, dal-għodu kena maħna u għanna maħna domana unek il-Jeremy, fil-fat Jeremy huwa businessman Ingliż u fil-fat għandu business u kol għawn Malta u propju dwar dan kienet ikellimna u dwar l-opportunitajiet illi għawn Malta għan negozji b'mod partikolari il-negozju li huwa ħanajtek il-qasam tiegħu huwa il-servizzi finanzjari u għet jesplora din il-possibilta tal-potenzjal li għanda Malta f'dan il-qasam. Apparti però s-servizzi finanzjari, il-delegati li għedin jieħdu sem, x'potenzjal iktar qed jaraw li jista' jintlaħaq? Mhux f'Malta biss, imma forsi anka b'kollaborazzjoni oħra li tista' ssir mill-pajjiżi li qegħdin jieħdu sem anke f'dan il-forum.
Ara, hemm ġis aspetti importanti li wieħed jifhem dil-forum. Ovvjament hemm il-fora lokali fejn huwa interess għalina bħala pajjiż, dik hija ħaġa ovvja. Però daqstant ukoll huwa importanti għal Commonwealth li jon nifsu. Il-Commonwealth huwa f'stadju parassa li qed ifittex ir-raġuni, qed ifittex ir-raison d'être tiegħu.
Ir-relevanza.
Ir-relevanza dik il-kelma. U meta tara business forum bħal dat induna li networking li jagħti il-Commonwealth iktar minn 50 pajjiż mhumiex blokk ġeografiku, però għandhom affarijiet inkomuni l-lingwi so on so forth. Il-business jgħin. Allura id-diskussjoni mhijiex biss fuq il-finanzi imma fuq healthcare, Islamic banking, fuq is-sustainability. Huma affarijiet li huma importanti mhux biss għall business community imma il-komunità iktar wiesa wkoll. Dik ta' iktar relevanza l-Commonwealth għalija.
In fact, Jeremy, he's agreeing with you about the potential that Commonwealth has in trying to the potential that business opportunities that businessmen like you have also to set up business opportunities in other countries. So what are you expecting from the outcome of all this, of your visit here in Malta and of your participation in the business forum?
Well, it's a huge opportunity to develop links and relationships with trading partners in parts of the world that we wouldn't ordinarily have access to. And as I've said earlier on the show, it's very easy to establish meetings and to develop working relationships with countries that border your own, but to establish business links in in Africa or in Australasia or in Asia in general, or other parts of the Commonwealth is more difficult to achieve. And what is very important about the business forum is that everybody is shown willing to come to the same place at the same time to actively work on developing business relationships.
It's a one-off occasion.
Absolutely.
It's held every 2 years, but sometimes not everybody has the flexibility to go from one place to another. Maybe Malta is like a crossroad, and maybe the geostrategical position of it makes it easier for businessmen to attend this business forum.
Absolutely.
Maybe that's
one of the
key
reasons
for success,
I mean,
no?
we said it would be a one-off occasion 10 years ago, and here we are again. So sometimes fate plays these funny old cards. But as Jeremy said, you've got people coming from all over the world. We've got people coming from far away as Hawaii, New Zealand, Australia, not necessarily Commonwealth nations. And I think this particular business forum is interesting because you've got states, people coming from China, from the Middle East. The idea has been to open the net, to attract interest towards the forum and not to rely solely on the Commonwealth countries themselves. So we've tried to expand it. It seems to have worked.
Adrian Hillman, Jeremy Leach, thank you so much for coming to our show. Mela dawk kienu Adrian Hillman li kien iċ-chairman li huwa għadu, għax tfadal il-Business Forum għadu ma spiċċax tal-Business Forum. U Jeremy Leach li huwa negozjant Ingliż li għadu għoġbu wkoll li jaqsam magħna l-opinjoni tiegħu dwar il-Business Forum u l-opportunijiet ta' negozju li hawn f'Malta. Mela ħammorru issa biex inkomplu naġġornawkom bl-aħbarijiet.